Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The fire within the mountain, the heart of Pele. Part 1: The mountain that dreamed of fire. Before the islands had names, before the sea had found its rhythm, the world slept in darkness and salt. Beneath the endless waves, the heart of the earth beat slow and deep, a pulse of molten breath, a dream of light trapped in stone. In that dream was a whisper, in that whisper a name, Pele. She was born not of flesh, but of flame, a spark that woke within the mountain's sleeping body. The ocean tried to hush her, to cradle her heat beneath its cold weight. But fire does not rest forever. For 1,000 years Pele waited. She listened to the slow song of magma beneath her cradle, the hum of the earth's bones shifting. She watched how the sea curved against the world's edge, jealous of its calm. "I will rise," she told the dark. "I will breathe." When the time came, the sea shuddered. The mountain opened its eye, and from that eye the first light poured, red, gold, alive. The water screamed, the sky cracked, and from the wound of creation she rose, a figure of flame clothed in smoke, her hair a river of fire. Pele stepped upon the newborn land. The ground trembled beneath her feet, not from fear, but from recognition. Every grain of sand remembered her. Every drop of lava called her sister. She looked at her hands, glowing with molten gold. "This," she said, "is the heart of the world." And the world answered, "Burn so that I may live." She walked across the newborn island, each step leaving a trail of light that hardened into stone. The ocean tried to rise against her, sending waves taller than the sky. Pele only smiled. She touched the water with her finger, and steam leapt upward. The breath of two opposites meeting, loving, and fighting all at once. The sky dimmed. Rain fell, hissing on the molten ground. It was the first rainfall the earth had ever known, a gift from the clouds to the fire below. From that meeting came the first rainbow, curved like a bridge between heaven and flame. Pele lifted her gaze. "Even the sky bends for love," she said. For many nights she wandered. Each mountain she touched began to dream. A deep, slow dreaming that turned stone to fire, fire to earth, and earth to life. She was not destruction. She was transformation. Yet even as she created, the ocean watched her with growing envy. "Why do you rise?" it whispered. "Why do you claim what I have held?" Pele turned her face toward the horizon. "Because the world must have balance. You cool, I kindle. You drown, I awaken." The sea roared. Waves surged, breaking against the new cliffs. The foam hissed like serpents. Pele laughed, and her laughter filled the air with sparks. "Then come," she said. "Let us see who the world remembers." The storm that followed raged for days. Lava met water, fire met tide, and from their battle the islands were born. When the storm finally broke, Pele stood upon the cooling rock. Around her, steam rose in ribbons, soft and pale. The ocean had calmed. Smoke lifted toward a newborn sun. The sky was pink with peace. Pele knelt and pressed her hand to the stone. Beneath her touch, it throbbed with quiet heat. "You will live," she whispered. "You will breathe my name." A soft wind moved through the haze, the first warm breeze of the world. "Then you are the heart of the mountain," it said. Pele smiled. "And the mountain," she replied, "is my heart." The volcano sighed, as if in gratitude. Deep within, the fire turned in its sleep, content. And so the first island dreamed, and in its dreaming it began to sing. The islands had begun to cool, their wounds sealed by ash and salt. For the first time, green appeared, shy moss on black rock, ferns unfurling beneath steam. The world had learned to breathe in rhythm with Pele's fire. Yet deep beneath her mountains, something else stirred. A sound older than flame, older than stone itself. Pele sat upon the rim of her volcano, watching the clouds drift like slow sails. The wind carried whispers from the ocean, the endless hiss of waves trying to erase her name. She smiled. "You may wash the shore," she said softly, "but you cannot wash the heart." Below, the mountain rumbled. It was not anger. It was a reply. The voice that answered her was not a word but a memory, low and glowing, pulsing through the stone. "I am here." Pele knelt, pressing her hand to the warm earth. "Who speaks?" The ground answered, "You made me. You burned me into breath." And in that moment, Pele realized her fire had found its echo. The island itself had learned her song. She smiled, her eyes flickering with amber light. "Then sing, my heart. Let the world remember that even stone can dream." The ground obeyed. Lava moved beneath her, not in fury but in rhythm, like a heartbeat too large for any one creature to hold. Every tremor became a verse. Every plume of smoke, a line of poetry written across the sky. The island was alive, its voice deep, slow, and eternal. But the sea was not silent. It roared from the horizon, jealous and vast. From its depths rose a whisper of its own, cool, patient, and cruel. "Sister," it said, "you burn too brightly." Pele knew that voice. It belonged to her brother, Kamapwa, the lord of storms and the ocean's fury. "You smother what you love," he warned from afar. "Your fire devours even beauty." "And you," Pele replied, her voice steady as heat, "hide behind peace to conceal your hunger." The ocean surged, hissing, "You will learn humility, flame sister. Water wears down even the hardest rock." Pele laughed, the sound echoing through the crater like thunder caught in a cage. "Then come and try." Lightning struck the sea. Waves rose, clawing at the shore. Pele descended into her mountain, her body flickering, her hair streaming behind her like a comet's tail. Inside the volcano, light and shadow danced. The molten rivers whispered her name, welcoming her home. As she stepped deeper, the air grew thick, a dream of stone, smoke, and memory. There, within the mountain's heart, Pele felt the oldest fire, the one that had been burning since before time had eyes. She closed her own and listened. The voice beneath the stone spoke again. "You are not alone." "Who are you?" she asked. "I am what you wake when you breathe. I am the memory of heat. I am your reflection, shaped in magma and silence." The flames around her rippled like a pulse. She felt it in her chest, not power, but belonging. "Then we are one," she whispered. "One," the fire replied, and the entire mountain exhaled. When she emerged, the world was trembling. The ocean had sent storms to choke her peaks. Waves crashed, winds screamed, thunder bled across the sky. But Pele only raised her hands. Lava answered. Rivers of fire rolled down her slopes, meeting the sea with a hiss that sounded almost like laughter. Steam rose in towers, pillars between heaven and earth. The people who would one day call these islands home would remember that sound forever. The hiss of love and defiance meeting in the same breath. The sea retreated, exhausted. The rain quieted. The mountain glowed, breathing calmly again. Pele stood at its crown, her hair flowing like living flame, her skin shining with the glow of newborn dawn. She closed her eyes and whispered to the earth beneath her feet, "We have found our voice." And the voice beneath the stone replied, "Yes, but every song must meet its silence." Pele smiled. "Then let silence come when it dares." Far below, the fire purred, like a god dreaming of its own beginning. And in that dream, the world kept spinning, bright, fragile, alive. The world was no longer young, but it still remembered the taste of its first fire. The islands glowed with new life, forests waking from ash, flowers daring to bloom on the cooled lips of lava. Smoke still lingered on the horizon like a song that refused to fade. And at the heart of it all, Pele stood at the mouth of her mountain, her hair a river of flame, her breath carrying the scent of molten stone. She had created much, but she was not alone anymore. From the warmth of her spirit and the embers of her dreams, others had begun to awaken, daughters and sisters born of the same eternal blaze. The first to rise was Hayaka, whose fire burned not with rage but with dance. Her steps left trails of light that hardened into coral. She laughed as she moved, and from her laughter came rhythm, the first heartbeat of music in the world. Then came Laka, whose flame did not destroy but coaxed, a softer glow that touched the forests and taught them how to sway. Wherever she walked, green returned, and the trees bowed to her warmth. She carried Pele's fire in her hands but shaped it into creation instead of battle. And then came Namaka, the sister born not of fire but of what resisted it, the ocean's spirit, the cool mirror to Pele's heat. The world had divided itself through them, one to burn, one to flow. For a time, they lived in harmony, bound by blood and by awe. But balance is a fragile song. One evening, as the sun sank into the sea, Pele stood with Hayaka on the cliffs. The horizon blazed gold and red, and in the distance, waves shimmered like molten glass. "Do you see?" Pele said softly. "Even the ocean burns when the light touches it." Hayaka smiled. "And yet the sea does not weep. Perhaps it loves your fire." From below, a voice rose, low, fluid, and full of ache. Or perhaps it fears it. Namaka emerged from the surf, her hair tangled with salt and moonlight. The sea itself seemed to bow around her. "Sister," she said, her tone both calm and cutting, "you forget that what you burn must also live." Pele met her gaze, unflinching. "And you forget that what you drown must also breathe." The air thickened between them. Lightning flickered along the waves, as if the world itself were unsure which sister it should obey. Hayaka stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly. "Sisters, the islands still heal. The people still sing. Must we fight before the world has learned our names?" But the wind carried no answer, only the hiss of steam where ocean met rock. That night, the fire in the mountain burned higher. Pele stood alone within her crater, the molten rivers below whispering her name. "You are the heart," they said. "You are the flame that remembers." She closed her eyes, feeling their warmth. "But even hearts can break," she whispered. From deep within, a vision rose, the island trembling beneath her feet, waves devouring the shore, and her sister's shadow looming across the sea. Pele's hands clenched. Sparks fell from her fingertips and sank into the lava. "If she wishes for a war, I will give her one the stars will remember." But even as she spoke, her youngest sister, Laka, entered quietly. Her hair glowed with the color of dawn. "Do not burn what you love, sister," she said. "Even the strongest fire leaves only silence if it forgets to listen." Pele turned to her, her eyes softening. "You are the gentle one. You see only peace." "I see what grows in your ash," Laka replied. "That is enough." For a moment, silence filled the mountain. Not cold, not fearful, but full of understanding. The lava below sighed like a sleeping child. Then, from the distance, thunder rolled, not from the heavens, but from the sea. The next morning, the horizon was dark. The waves rose taller than mountains, the color of deep glass. Namaka's fury had awakened. Pele stepped out to meet it. Her sisters followed. Hayaka with her dancing flames, Laka with her soft light, and the youngest sparks of fire spirits that had not yet learned their names. The world trembled as water and fire prepared to meet again. Pele looked toward the ocean and said quietly, "Let her come. Every storm must find its mountain." The sea roared. The sky split open, and somewhere between the hiss of rain and the cry of wind, the island itself whispered, "This is how gods remember they are alive." The morning broke heavy with silence. The horizon glowed with an ominous red, neither dawn nor dusk, but something caught between them, as if the sky itself could not decide which sister it should serve. The air trembled, heavy with salt and ash. On the cliffs of the youngest island, Pele stood barefoot, her hair a burning tide that rippled with every breath. The sea below churned dark and furious, every wave sharpening itself like a blade. "Namaka," she whispered, "you come again with your grief and your pride, but I do not fear you." The ocean answered, low and endless, "You burned the land I loved. You scorched the hearts of my rivers. You think yourself eternal, but fire dies when it runs out of breath. And water, Pele said softly, loses itself when it forgets its shape. The sky darkened. Clouds rolled in, dense as grief. Lightning flashed in the distance, and with it came the first roar of the storm. The first wave struck before she could finish her thought. It rose higher than the mountains, a wall of silver fury. Pele lifted her hand, and lava burst from the cliffs, meeting the wave midair. Steam exploded between them, a sound like the world exhaling all its pain at once. The impact shook the island to its core. Forests fell, rocks split, and from the mountain's crown rivers of fire began to flow. The sea surged again, swallowing the shore, while molten light clawed its way back, unrelenting. The gods of the wind fled. The birds fell silent. The people, still young in their stories, hid in caves, whispering prayers they did not yet understand. Hawaiian danced through the chaos, her flames flickering like music, trying to calm her sister's rage. Pele, she cried, the earth is breaking beneath your heart. But Pele did not answer. She stood within the fire, her body made of light and sorrow, her eyes reflecting both love and wrath. Namaka's waves rose again, colder than before. Each drop carried memory. Every wound, every jealousy, every time the sea had been told it could not touch the stars. You always take, Namaka shouted from the depths. You consume everything, even the sky's reflection. And you? Pele answered, her voice echoing through molten valleys. Bury everything you cannot understand. They met again. Flame and wave, fury and calm. The sea hissed, the fire roared. The world's bones groaned beneath them. From their collision, new land rose from the depths, sharp, shining, alive. Mountains broke the surface of the ocean, their peaks still smoking, their roots deep in molten song. Creation was born through destruction. When the storm finally faltered, the horizon was unrecognizable. What had been one island was now many scattered jewels of fire cooled by salt and time. The air was thick with mist, a memory of battle still whispering in every breeze. Pele knelt at the edge of a blackened cliff, her hands trembling with exhaustion. Her fire still burned, but softer now, a glow of grief rather than rage. Hayaka approached quietly. You have made the world larger, she said. But at what cost? Pele's eyes softened. The sea will hate me forever, yet even hatred shapes the world. From the distance, thunder rolled again. Not from the heavens, but from the deep, where Namaka still waited. I am not finished, the sea whispered. Nor am I, Pele replied. She stood, her shadow long and flickering. The sun broke through the clouds, turning the steam to gold. For a moment the island seemed to breathe. That night, the stars trembled as if they too feared what they had seen. The earth's wounds glowed faintly, and from those glowing scars came new life. Ferns, moss, tiny flowers daring to root in cooled lava. Pele watched them and smiled sadly. Even ash dreams of becoming soil, she said. Hayaka touched her shoulder. Sister, rest. The world remembers your fire. But Pele shook her head. The world remembers our war. Fire and sea will meet again, and each time, the islands will be born anew. She looked toward the horizon, where the dark shape of her sister's waves moved in the moonlight. We are both creators, she whispered. We just build in different ways. The mountain sighed beneath her feet, a slow and tired heartbeat. Pele pressed her palm against it and murmured, "Then let this island live, even if we cannot make peace." From the sea came no reply, only the sound of waves, endless and eternal, like breathing. And so the world kept its rhythm. Fire rising, water falling, land growing from their sorrow. The gods above turned their eyes away, unable to judge creation born from conflict. Only the stars saw what truly happened. Two sisters, forever divided, yet bound by the same pulse that made the earth. They would fight again and again until time forgot their names. But each battle would leave behind something new, something living. The islands would carry their story in their stones. And the people who walked those lands would someday whisper, "This is where fire met water and both learned to love through war." The storms had passed. The sea had quieted. The islands slept under a sky of pale gold. But within the mountain, the fire still whispered, not with rage now, but with memory. Pele sat alone upon the edge of her crater. The world she had fought for stretched beneath her, vast, green, and alive. Rivers carved paths through valleys that had once been rivers of lava. Flowers bloomed where ash had fallen thickest. Life had risen from her destruction, soft and forgiving. And yet, she could not rest. The mountain hummed beneath her feet, asking, "Will you sleep now, heart of fire?" She answered quietly, "I have burned too long to know peace." The wind passed through her hair, carrying the scent of salt and distant rain. It spoke with the ocean's voice, calm, endless, unfeeling. "The sea remembers," it whispered. "I know," she said. "So do I." Night fell. The stars returned like embers scattered across the heavens. Pele traced them with her eyes, remembering the faces of her sisters. Hayaka's laughter, Laka's gentle hands, Namaka's cold gaze. The stars seemed to echo each one of them, glowing with different light. She closed her eyes. The volcano beneath her pulsed in time with her breath. "If I am fire," she murmured, "then perhaps even fire must learn to feel." And so she descended once more, down into the molten heart of her mountain. There, the air shimmered with dreams. The rivers of magma glowed softly, as if listening. She walked until she reached the place where the earth's pulse was strongest. When she knelt, she saw her reflection flicker in the glowing stone. "What am I now?" she asked the fire. It answered not in words, but in warmth, rising gently, wrapping her like a memory of embrace. "You are what remains when fury learns tenderness," it seemed to say. Pele wept, not with tears, but with sparks that fell into the lava and vanished. Days turned into seasons. The mountain no longer roared. It sighed. The people below began to build their homes, planting trees where the ash had settled. They sang songs of gratitude to the goddess who made the land, and offered fruit and flowers at the edge of her crater. Pele watched them from afar. They worship what burned them, she thought, almost in disbelief. But then she saw a small child place a flower on the ground and whisper, "Thank you for our home." And in that moment, the great goddess of fire smiled. "They understand," she said. "Not fear, not war, but understanding." Hayaka came to her then, her dance gentle as rain. "Sister," she said, "the world has forgiven you." Pele looked down at her hands, still glowing faintly. "And if I cannot forgive myself? Then let the land forgive you. Let life be your answer." The mountain's heart stirred beneath them, slow, deep, alive. The air shimmered with heat, but it was no longer cruel. It was a heartbeat. That night, the fire within the crater dimmed for the first time. Pele sat in its glow and listened to the world breathe. The waves moved in rhythm with her pulse. The trees swayed in harmony. Even the wind, once a messenger of anger, now carried only song. The fire whispered softly, "You are no longer alone." Pele looked up toward the stars. "Then perhaps I never was." In the distance, on the horizon, Namaka's reflection shimmered. The sea still vast, still restless. But even from afar, the waves seemed slower, their edges softer. Pele rose, spreading her arms to the sky. "Let there be peace between us," she said, though she knew the sea would never answer. Yet somewhere in its depths, a current shifted, a silent acknowledgement, small but real. The volcano sighed, releasing a gentle plume of smoke that curled into the stars. It was not rage. It was remembrance. At dawn, the world glowed with a warmth that was not from the sun. The mountain's light had softened, its fire content within its heart. Birds circled above the crater, singing. And in that stillness, Pele finally closed her eyes. The mountain spoke one last time. "Will you rest now, heart of fire?" And Pele, smiling faintly, whispered, "Not rest, just peace." The people of the islands had grown. They sang in the evenings, their voices mingling with the waves. They danced upon the sand, honoring the breath that made their home. And when the wind carried the scent of smoke from the mountains, they smiled, for they knew their goddess still watched. Pele sat at the summit of her volcano, her eyes reflecting both dawn and dusk. She felt the earth's warmth pulsing beneath her, and the ocean's cool breath upon her face. "Once I thought I was alone," she said to the sky, "but I was only learning how to belong." The mountain answered in silence, content. Night came. The stars were brighter than ever. Not distant, but near, as though the heavens themselves bent to listen. Pele looked upward and whispered, "Have you watched us all this time?" And the stars, in their silent language of light, replied, "We are made from the same fire you carry." She smiled softly. "Then perhaps I am not of earth alone." The wind circled her, gentle, glowing faintly as if warmed by her presence. You are of everything, it said. Earth, sea, sky. You are what remains when the world learns to love its scars. Far below, Hayaka danced once more among the trees, her laughter echoing through the valleys. Laka's forest swayed in rhythm, blossoms opening beneath moonlight. Even Namaka's waves had grown calmer. Still proud, still endless, but now without anger. The world had found its balance. Pele rose, her form shifting with the breeze. Her hair shimmered like embers carried on the wind. She looked down at the islands, her children, her memory, and felt the pulse of every mountain calling her name. It is time, the earth whispered. She nodded. Yes, let the fire rest in what it has made. Slowly, her light began to lift from her body, threads of flame unraveling like ribbons in the wind. They rose toward the heavens, glowing brighter with each breath. Her form softened, her voice becoming a song carried through the air. Do not weep for what burns, she sang, for fire never dies. It only changes its shape. The volcano beneath her glowed one last time, not with fury, but with farewell. The people below saw the mountain shimmer against the sky and fell silent. They watched as a river of light climbed into the stars, swirling like smoke turning to dawn. Hayaka knelt and whispered, "Good night, sister." Namaka lifted her hand from the sea and murmured, "Rest well, Flameheart." And the stars, countless and eternal, whispered her name, Pele. When morning came, the mountain was quiet. Its rim still glowed faintly, as though remembering her breath. From its center rose a single plume of white smoke that stretched across the sky, forming a trail of light. The elders told their children, "That is not smoke. It is her spirit painting the heavens." And when the sun set each evening, its last red rays brushed the mountains with fire. The people said, "She is watching." And when lightning touched the peaks, they whispered, "She is speaking." And when lava returned to flow after centuries of calm, they sang, "She is creating again." Centuries passed. The world changed. The islands grew older. The sea reshaped their edges. But the fire never truly faded. It lived in every spark of warmth, every heartbeat that loved the land, every dream that refused to die. And above it all, in the sky where day meets night, a faint crimson glow still flickered, the eternal echo of a goddess who became her own creation. The fire within the mountain, the heart of Pele, was not a tale of destruction, nor of anger. It was a story of becoming, of fire learning gentleness, of creation born through pain, and of a heart that refused to cool because it had found something worth burning for. And when the last light of dusk touched the ocean, the sky whispered the secret the world had waited to hear, that even fire can dream. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.